I am very happy to be here with you today. My name is Alethia Tucker. Thank you, Chris Hampton, for inviting me to your very first Champ I Am Summit, focused in on purpose. And what I really want to do here today is to challenge you a bit, to give you some insight, and to give you, of course, some tools that are going to make you rise even higher to achieve the things that you desire to achieve. Again, my name is Alethia Tucker, and I am with Jolise Enterprises. And my focus and my topic for you today is how it is you can go from stuck to unstoppable and realizing the role that reinvention can play in helping you to get to your purpose. I've curated a presentation for you today that I'm going to share that's going to give you some insight, provide you with some tools, and give you just what I've been talking about, give you what it is that you need in order to be able to get to your next level. The tools that I will give to you not only are going to help you right now, but I'll also talk to you about some things that you can do even beyond this presentation. So again, I'm going to talk to you today about making sure that you embrace your purpose and tell you how it is that you can do that through reinvention. I frequently, when I think about purpose, I think about where I am and where many of us reside. You see, many of us reside in a border, in an area that I like to call the mediocrity era or the mediocrity area. And so this area on the north is kind of boxed in by compromise, and on the south is boxed in by indecision, and on the east, boxed in by past thinking, and on the west, by a lack of vision. Most people live in this territory where they are boxed in. And I borrowed this quote from the late Dr. Miles Monroe. And it's not really that difficult to see that here you're surely living in an area of total confusion, an area where you don't know whether you're coming or going, progressing or sitting stagnant, whether you're really reaching your goals or just staying busy. It's a very rough place to be. It's a rough place to live. And if you don't purpose in your heart and vow to move from that place, then you'll never leave the region and you'll be stuck in that area of mediocrity. And that's what I think about when I think of you're not pursuing your purpose. That's what I think about when I frequently hear clients that I work with talk about it not being time or it being too late to actually pursue purpose. So we're going to delve into this just a bit. But first, I want to tell you a little more about me. My company is Jolise Enterprises, and I am a coach. I help people, I help women in particular, kind of in that middle range where they're perhaps approaching retirement, perhaps kind of getting in living in a stage of life where things look a little different. Kids may be starting to go to school. You may be starting to care for elderly parents. You may be thinking about retirement. Yeah, that stage, that group, that area has its own set of pain points. My niche is really helping people, helping them to translate what purpose and passion means and then living that out. Many of us are kind of lost right there in the middle, trying to figure out just what that means. I bring to this area 30 years of expertise in marketing and in training, in human resources. I also am an Amazon bestseller. I lend my insight and my experiences. I lend them not only in speaking, but also in word and in training. And actually, that training and actually developing the speaking area and helping others to do the same to make their voice heard is what kind of pushed me into the area of publishing as well, which is something that is new to the expertise that I'm offering. All right. So, in addition to that, I know about the purpose that passion plays in reinvention. I went further and I am a developed and dedicated passion career coach, a passion mapping coach as well as a trainer. And I also do things where I interact in the community to ensure that I am reaching those who need services the most, who make sure or who are sure to profit from what it is that we have to say about reinvention and about striving to be your absolute best. So, reinvention, when you think about it, means to change something so much that it appears to be entirely different. Now, that just sounds appealing to so many of us, doesn't it? Some of us have been so stuck where we are. Some of us have wanted to do something different for so long. Some of us have wanted more for so long and tried to figure how is it that we can gain that. So the whole concept of reinvention, being new, being different, sounds so appealing. Well, I'll be honest, it didn't sound so appealing to me. The thought of it was really kind of scary. And for me, this whole process really did start with a bookmark. I vividly recall when I was approaching my 50th birthday and I decided I was going to do a party. I was trying to figure out what is it that I could do that I could leave with my guests that really kind of showed a sign of that momentous occasion. Did I want to do a song? Did I want to do some kind of presentation? And I had been really, really laboring over exactly what it is that I should do. And eventually I came up with something very simple, which was a bookmark. I said a bookmark would definitely be something that they could carry once they left the party. And it would be kind of a little memento that perhaps they could put in a book or hang somewhere in the house that reminded them of the celebration that I was having for my 50th, such a milestone birthday. So, what was I to put on this bookmark? Again, I labored over that and then finally came up with something simple again. Why not just put 50 little lessons that you've learned over the years in approaching 50? Some very simple things that people can relate to, that they can appreciate. Well, I did just that. And I had the place settings with the bookmark sitting right in the middle of the plate. And it was a huge hit. So much so that people kept saying, I know there's more to the story. There's got to be more than this simple sentence that you put down here as one of the lessons that you've learned in life. We want to hear more, is what I kept hearing. And that went on for about a year before I finally decided, let's go ahead and expand on these lessons. Let's talk about more than just a sentence. Let's give them some more of these lessons that I've learned. Not only do that, but kind of put some scriptures behind it and go ahead and expand out to chapters. And that's just what I did. Thus birth 50 things I've learned on my way to 50. Again, that was the book that I put out when I was approaching 50. Well, I started at 50 and it came many years later. However, that also was a time in my life where the ground, the soil was fertile for reinvention. Shortly after, or shortly before I started finishing up the book finally, I had C-spine surgery. And during that time also, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. It was a very, very hard time in life. I am an only child, and my family and I have always been really close. We've lived close, we've done everything together, and I felt all of his pain as he was feeling all of mine too. C-spine surgery really was a difficult thing for me to recuperate from. And as things turned out, his diagnosis had really taken a turn for the worse during that period as well. And so as I was recuperating from C-spine surgery, he was transitioning. And that was a very, very hard time. And as a result of all of that, I did so much thinking. And that book really did get the gist, really did get all of the thoughts and processes that were going through my mind at the time. And when he passed away, I knew that I had more to do than just the book. I knew that the book was the beginning for me. You see, my father was someone of service, and that came out so loud and so strong, definitely during his memorial services. And as I reflected over his life, and I realized that I too had a desire to do that, not just be of service, but a desire to do more in life that I had been putting off for so long and denying for whatever reason, perhaps for some of the reasons that you may deny yourself of that right now. Perhaps it's because you have been so focused on making sure that everyone else is okay. Perhaps it's because you have really been focused in on ensuring that you are fulfilling someone else's dream in work. Perhaps you are helping to fulfill the dreams of your loved ones. Whatever the reason may be, it's holding you back, and it was holding me back also. I decided upon the death of my father that it was time, because tomorrow was not promised. And at that point is when the book really started an entire revolution for me. A real deep dive into purpose, a real deep dive into passion, commitment to going through programs and getting certifications and really spending time finding out what I truly desired, what I was capable of, what my possibilities were, and how I could walk that life out. I discovered that truly it's a life of purpose that was one that thrives. And I was determined to do just that. So it was the bookmark that truly, truly gave way to my purpose. It gave way, it helped me to launch into purpose. It was at that point that I started my podcast and I started speaking. And that became one of the 6, close to 8 books now that I've worked on. I started doing training. I started my publishing company. I started getting into areas where I could be seen and where I could be heard. And now that I had an idea, that I really had a firm foundation from which to build my reinvention upon, from which I had the knowledge of doing it, I knew that I wanted to help any and everyone else who too desired to be different, to pursue that life outside of mediocrity and one that thrived. And thus, my whole reinvention platform was invented. So you may say, okay, so that's why you reinvented. All right, I understand what you're saying. That all sounds good. Still not sure that a reinvention is appropriate for me, and maybe it's not. But definitely the pursuit of purpose is. You see, why reinvent was really simple for me. I had more. I knew that I had more. I knew that I desired to do more. I knew that that more was going to hang over my head like a cloud until I reached for it. I wasn't so certain initially what more looked like for me, but I knew that I needed to pursue this. So, why do people reinvent? You may be wondering, well, is it really something? Is there something that may be telling me? Well, there are a few reasons that are really kind of customary. Sometimes it's a reactive reason. We're responding to a life change. We have had to change for one reason or another. We've had to move. Sometimes it's the result of a divorce. Sometimes it's the result of the death of a loved one. We have had to push into a situation of change that is happening already, and we know that we need to deal with it. We're going through some kind of transition, all things that really kind of encompass being a reactive reason for wanting or needing to reinvent. What else? Well, sometimes it's a proactive reason. We know that something is coming, a life change is coming, and we want to be prepared for it. We want to perhaps move in the direction of being settled and move in the direction of being sure that the life change is going to work for us. And so, for that reason, we've had to reinvent to make sure that we are prepared for whatever is coming down the road. And sometimes that's a very scary place to be, isn't it? Because we don't know what that life change may look like, or what it is that we may even desire for things to look like. Sometimes we change or we need to reinvent because we're frustrated and we want to get away. It's a means of escape. We have been in the same situation for a long time and we are fed up and we've had it. And that's a reason to reinvent and to get something different. We'll seek something different because we have no choice. For many of us, we feel that it's a matter of life or death. And sometimes it can be physically. If it's a situation where you're in an abusive relationship, where you've had to move for some other kind of danger, or where emotionally you feel like the life that you're leading is taking such a toll on you, you don't see yourself surviving mentally, and you have to get away. You have to escape. Sometimes that's the reason why we need to reinvent. And the last one is because we really just want to move towards something. We know that better has to be out there. We're okay where we are, but just the thought that something better really can be out there is enough for us to pursue the change. So, what we're going to talk about today, we'll talk about how practicing good self care, for example, is important when you're thinking of reinventing and discovering and moving into purpose. I'll give you some insight on some of the things that I have encountered in working with clients and in studying and in being on panels and working through curriculum, all things that have helped to develop the platform and the knowledge that I have, what I know is necessary, the tools that are mandatory in order for you to reinvent and make sure that that reinvention includes purpose and is not excluding it, because without the purpose, the reinvention does not lie on a flat foundation and definitely has the potential to fail. You want to pursue purpose because you want to thrive and you want to get out of that area that I mentioned that Miles Monroe talks about, the one in which you really are not moving outside of mediocrity. We'll talk about stepping into the work that's needed. Yeah, work is needed. Sometimes the work that needs to be done seems overwhelming and you can't really grasp, you can't put your mind around it. You don't know if you really want to pursue it because it seems scary. Trust me, you do. We'll talk about stepping into that. We'll talk about the importance of having an optimistic mindset. You need to be sure that you expect and look for the positive and not the negative. All of this is paramount to ensuring that you can reinvent and be in that better place. So we'll talk the process, we'll talk the tools for reinvention, and we'll talk about how you can get started right now. So the process, quite frankly, it may not happen overnight. Yeah, I say it started with a bookmark and it ended with a book, but there were so many things in the middle of that, right? There were so many things that even went beyond the book, the things that I have been doing in the past few years. And honestly, sometimes a reinvention does require a start over, and sometimes a reinvention requires another reinvention. It's a continuous process. However, the results are so worth the effort. The world awaits you on the other side of your reinvention. I often tell those that I work with that your imprint is unique, and that unique imprint is needed in a world that seems to focus on so many things that are all the same and not always positive and frequently negative. You've been holding a door shut for quite some time. Many of you have been holding a door shut for quite some time. Let's go and see what is possible. So, what are you doing here? That's the first place to start. What are you doing here? When you think about purpose, you're like, well, why is it that I'm even here? And now I'm talking reinvention. I don't even know what I'm reinventing from or where I'm trying to go. Purpose, and I have another Miles Monroe quote here, is when you know and understand what you were born to accomplish. And vision is when you see it in your mind and begin to imagine it. So that's the starting point. Start to think, what in the world is it that I need to do? What in the world do I feel as though I'm here to do? And chances are there are things in your life that are giving you hints to that, things that you enjoy doing, a particular piece of your job that you really thrive in, a particular thing that you do in your personal life that you not only enjoy and that you're good at, but something that you perhaps want to take further. All questions that you need to think about, that you need to address when we're talking purpose. So, today, in talking reinvention, we're going to specifically cover about 5 things that are necessary in order for you to get the proper framework that's needed, in order for you to get what you need to reinvent. So the first thing you need to do is an assessment. Where are you? Where are you now? Sit down. I frequently tell my clients to find a weekend, perhaps a week, where you dedicate time to journaling, where you write down every thought in your mind, where you're assessing where you are at home, where you are at work, where you are with your family, where you are with your health. Sit down and do a real good assessment. And perhaps you want to just start by jotting all the things down and then putting a little scale on the paper where you put, I'm good here, I'm not good here, I need improvement. And then beginning at that point, you can determine where are the areas that you really need support the most urgently, where are the areas that things are really going well, where are the things that perhaps you want better, but you don't have to be in a right now mode to get them accomplished. And this will give you the foundation. This will give you many times the aha moments for, I've been missing this. This is something that I need to do. This is a place that I need to go. Why is it that I have been feeling so void in this area? Is because this is one of the places where I am depleted and it's helping me or not helping me. It's really forcing me into a point of not operating in purpose. Start with the assessment. Think about 5 things that you want to change based on the list that I just gave you. Then think about, how would those things look if you changed it? In the best world, how would those 5 things look if you made the change? Then commit to changing those things. All right? And then choose one of them that you can do right now. Even as I'm speaking to you, you can start to make a change. Now, of course, you don't have your things written down. However, I'm saying that it can be just that quick. In the time that we've spent here, you can begin to set up a framework and to identify something that you can make a change with and then make the change just that quickly. And frequently, that's all that's needed to get you moving in the right direction. Sometimes a start is all that you need. A start is always all that you need, but seeing that you're able to make that start will definitely launch you to going further. You were born to share your gifts and your talents with the world. I've already talked about this, and it's my belief that we are here with gifts and talents to make this world a better place. And in making the world a better place, we're really making ourselves better if we move in what it is we have been designed to do and what it is that we know our hearts are telling us is truly the purpose in which we want to fulfill. Now, when pursuing this, realize that it will be very easy to get distracted. It will be very easy to begin to wane in confidence and to remember that you need to do things that are going to help you to kind of still continue to push forward. Don't let those things really push you off of what you desire, what you deserve, and what you can have as you reach for your destiny. Don't fall short of your destiny. So, I've been talking about gifts and talents. How do you connect with those? Many of you know Elizabeth Gilbert well, but you might not be able to match that name right away, but you may be able to match it with one of her books. She happens to be the author of a popular book turned movie, Eat, Pray, Love. And in a recent interview with Good Morning America, Gilbert, she mentioned two types of people that they are. This interview resonated with me so because it helped me to identify my personality type. It helped me to identify how it is that I could go about pursuing my passions and my purpose based on my mentality, based on how I went about life. And she talked about there being two people or two paths that people take, and they usually don't really stray a lot from it. One person is really focused in on the task at hand. They know that they are operating, they are moving in one place, and they act as jackhammers. And if you think about a jackhammer has one function, it is there to dig, and you focus on that one area. In many instances, that's how we are. In many instances, that's how people think, that's how they function. They see themselves in one vein, they see themselves doing one thing and one thing only, and they are going to stick with that thing forever and ever. Amen. And that's all right, because that is the way that you are designed. And then there are the others, where they kind of go from area to area. They're good at this, so they stop here. They're good at this, and they stop here, almost like a hummingbird. And hummingbirds kind of pollinate where they go. They come here and they pollinate a little, and they go to the next flower and they pollinate a little more, and go to the next area and pollinate even further. Well, that sounded so much like me. There were so many things that I was really, really good at. And for the first time, listening to her saying what she did let me know that it was okay to be a hummingbird. It was okay if there was not just one area that I was focused in on, but that truly there were many things that I had gifts, that I had talents, that I had passions for. So, in thinking about your purpose, remember that you need to have grace. Don't think that you need to fit into one area. And that, yeah, reinvention may need to take place because you have been trying to fit the role of a jackhammer when you really are a hummingbird. And that's where I was. So, how is it that you figure out if perhaps it's your gifts and your talents that really are leading you to where you need to go in your purpose? You do your research. Perhaps you go in, if you're interested in opening a bookstore, volunteer at a bookstore. If you're interested in starting a butcher business, see if you can meet with the local butcher to find out how this person started their business, what it is that were the pitfalls, what were the things that he or she knew they needed to do in the community. Do the research that is necessary. Do the back work to find out how it is that perhaps your gifts and your talents flow into what it is that you desire to do, flow into what it is that you know you are destined to do. What's going to really make you move into that greater place in life, whether that be personal or professional. So, in setting the framework, I have something that will provide support to you. You want to make sure that you do things, for example. For many of us, it's going to require, even for us to get started, once we do the analysis of where we are, we move into that assessment place, which is the second part of the 5-part process that you need to take. Do the assessment. And you've started that already, because when you sat down to do assess exactly where you are, then you knew that there were some pieces in there where some things needed to change. So I said that this is the second part. Forgive me. This is still a part of the first part of your process. But the second part of the assessment piece that you're doing, you want to give yourself permission to go ahead and make the changes. For many of us, we stumble and we fall because we feel that we are not worthy of actually doing the reinvention. Give yourself permission to actually go in and make the changes that are needed based on what you found out in your assessment. And in giving yourself that permission, something that may encourage you again would be to sit back and think about, how does this look if I go ahead and make the change? What is it that I can do? Where is it that I can go? How can life be better? Now, the second part of the framework is analysis. And this is all about the heart. What is it that you need to do in order to take action? Well, it's head work and heart work. And frequently, the head work totally gets in the way of the heart work. The heart is really your foundation for change. Why? Because the heart knows exactly where it is that you are supposed to go. And in order for reinvention to take place, your heart has to be staged properly. What you have in your heart determines your propensity for change. So, what do we have in our hearts? Well, there are two conditions. All right. You either have an unhealthy heart or you have a healthy heart. So, what constitutes an unhealthy heart? Sometimes it's one that's been broken, it's fearful, it feels hopeless, it's angry, it's stony, meaning there's nothing that can get through it. Sometimes it's numb, sometimes it's doubtful, sometimes it's faithless. All of these things, if they're in your heart, they are going to cloud you from being able to understand exactly how purpose is to develop, and it's going to cloud you from being able to carry it out. And when you couple the unhealthy place of the heart with what frequently is not the best mindset, you feel as though you cannot progress in any way. So, what is it that you need to do? It's quite obvious, as I have it on the opposite side. You need to make sure that you do the things that are going to set you up to have a healthy heart, to have one that's receptive, hopeful, faithful, grateful, confident, prayerful, fallow, and fearless. Because it's that kind of heart that is fertile for planting purpose, understanding purpose, moving and knowing how it is that you need to reinvent to get to that life that is going to enable you to thrive. And sometimes it could be a little hard to get that heart to repair, but we all can improve. And improvement takes commitment to working to fixing those things that are deficient, along with the determination to foster those things that are over on the healthy side. Again, extend yourself some grace. Don't let things in the past help to fertilize that unhealthy condition. It may mean letting go of some mindsets that have been holding you back, which may mean work around doing that. It may mean getting the support that's needed to help you to decipher why it is that the heart is in the condition that it's in. But it's not until it gets healthy that you are going to be in the best place, which is this side over here on the right, that you're going to be in the best place to not only determine what purpose and a reinvention may look like for you, but being able to actually carry it out. So, what is the third piece of your framework? The power. What's the source? What is the source? We've talked about the heart being the foundation. We've talked about the condition that's needed. We've talked about the assessment that's needed. Now we're talking about how are we going to power up this purpose? How are we going to power up this reinvention? You have got the power, but guess what? There are some things that can really be zappers to that power. The situations in your life, the shoulds, your own behavior. Sometimes clutter can cloud that power or zap that power. Sometimes unmet needs, boundaries that have been crossed that you've tried to set and others have continuously crossed. A people-pleasing spirit can sometimes clutter that power or zap that power. Relationship, how you treat your body, just any and number of things can really be power zappers, things that totally deplete you so that you don't have energy to even pursue purpose, much less a reinvention to get there. They boil down really kind of to two things: your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. Some of us don't have the greatest relationships with ourselves. We don't get the proper amount of sleep. We don't eat properly. We don't exercise. We don't drink our water. We don't take medications that are needed. We sometimes tend to foster negative emotions. We're depressed. We're angry. We have a lack of self-esteem, stress, fear, all of these things that really are not good relationships with ourselves. And it can really kind of fall definitely into the category of relationships with others too, because many times there are others that help to bring about these negative emotions in ourselves. We sometimes beat ourselves up feeling that we need to be perfectionists. That's not a good place to be. We talk about the relationship with others, that people-pleasing spirit, and not needing to have that. Abusive relationships sometimes not advocating for ourselves on the job, sometimes putting other people's dreams in front of ours. These are all zappers, all things that we need to work on, pulling back on to ensure that we develop a good relationship with others and a good relationship with ourselves so that we are not zapping our powers. And then what else? Once we identify all of these things, we just need to reset. We identify what it is that's not going right. We see what's zapping our powers. We need to reboot. We need to look at our core values. We need to see what our area of focus really, really is. What are our strengths? What are our dreams? What are our skills, our profession? Do what is necessary so that we can hit that reset button to make sure that we are actually kicking off the reinvention that I speak of. And then lastly, once you reset, you've got to commit to doing the work. You've got to do things like refrain from spreading yourself too thinly, giving the best yes to your situation and not the probable no that you have been giving all of your life. Realize that you're worthy of a reinvention and a change, and do the work that is needed. So as I wrap up here, I've told you about the importance of reinvention. I've told you about your worthiness to pursue passions and purpose, and how really it is a life that thrives that gets you to where you need to be. and why it is that you can pursue this reinvention. I've given you a 5-step framework to do it in. You have some tools to get started right now. Don't ever doubt the importance of actually getting the work done. And if you need support, there are coaches, there are counselors, there's self-help books and mentoring groups, podcasts, seminars, conferences. And don't forget the importance of affirmations that just reinforce the person that you are, the fearfully and wonderfully made person that you are with your unique footprint. Now, I also want to tell you, as I sum things up, about the way in which you can connect with me and work with me. My website is joliseenterprises.com. And I also have tools that you can access, online tools that will help you to work on the reinvention process. And you can get to those tools by going to alethiatucker.com. And then reach out to me at atucker@joliseenterprises.com to ensure that you can connect and get an appointment so that we can do the coaching that is needed oftentimes around reinvention. So 2 ways, 2 tools. Visit alethiatucker.com and get on board with my online tools. There are tools there that you can do at your own pace that are going to help you to discover what you're really good at, to know what purpose looks like, and to pursue that purpose. And then also connect with me to do some very specific work around very specific goals that you have. Remember, each of us has the right and responsibility to assess the road which lies ahead and those over which we have traveled. And if the future road looms ominous or unpromising and the road's back uninviting, then we need to gather our resolve and carry only the necessary baggage. Step off that road into another direction. If the new choice is also unpalatable, without embarrassment, we must be ready to change that as well. And that's a quote that I'm leaving you by Maya Angelou. In this, she wrote, "Wouldn't take nothing for my journey now." Thank you so much.